Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week. So keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. ThunderCast proud members of the College Huddle. You can go to thecollegehuddle.com, the largest fan-driven podcasting network in the country. That's right, thecollegehuddle.com. Also, you can find the ThunderCast anywhere on major podcasting outlets of Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. Of course, if you're watching, you're on YouTube. What we'd like you to do is send a link to one of your buddies or a couple of your buddies. We know you guys are in group chats. Just drop the link to the show on your favorite podcasting network, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcasts or even YouTube, and help us grow the listener base, because the bigger we get, the more we can do for herd fans and the more we can do for the herd overall. That's what we're here for. Russ, it was an awesome weekend in Huntington. And before we even talk about the herd, I got to say, dude, it feels good to be able to be back with you here. We were having a little trouble. Life is awfully damn busy, but I'm glad to be back this week.
I wish there was no copyright, because I'd play the theme from Welcome Back, Cotter now.
Welcome back.
Don't. You're going to get us, one, kicked off the air for your singing, two, because it's copyright, but you have an idea, but everyone else has zero idea how damned awkward it is to just sit and talk to yourself, and I talked to Paul Swan about it, and I was like, already thought you were doing a great job, Paul, but new level of respect, because you do this every day, 5 days a week. He's got no co-host. Yeah. And man, I tried those. I did the one regular episode and the 2 basketball previews, and I felt like just quitting right in the middle.
Yeah, I found a couple of times I had to do it on my previous show in the early years before I really had consistent co-hosts and things like that. And it was like, I would find that when I would do a show that would normally take us 45 minutes or something, like, I was done. I'm like 8 minutes in and I've said all I need to say, and I felt weird about it. And I was like, all right, this is not anything I want to do. So big ups for you for bringing it home for the herd fans and the basketball previews, and then knocking out some interviews. If you guys haven't seen those, you need to go check out the men's and women's basketball preview episodes. They are YouTube exclusives. So if you only listen on the audio version somewhere, you're going to need to go to YouTube. You can listen to the show. Just download the YouTube Music app, and you can actually listen to it. It's an awesome app, by the way. But those are YouTube exclusive episodes. Russ has got the men's basketball preview, separate episode for the women's basketball preview, and exclusive interviews with each head coach for each particular interview. Great way to get familiarized right here as basketball season is about to take off for the herd. But look, we had a big football game this weekend. It was one that was kind of sort of a must-win. I think all of them are must-wins for the herd from here on out, because as long as we're staring up at Georgia Southern, they're all must-wins. And even if we are able to surpass them, you got to keep winning to stay ahead. So we're going to talk about the big game against ULM. But before we get into that, I need you to give me a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
And now I'm going to need you to finally get this one back going the right way with some things that we can actually talk about. You don't have to try to make conversation with yourself. Let's give Jed and the team down there at Ignite Link their money's worth again this week by having both of us talk about some kick-ass things. So give me 5 things that every herd fan needs to know this week.
Yeah, now I'm going to be able to bounce these off of you instead of putting glasses on and acting like I'm 2 different people. But here are 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week. Brought to you by Ignite Link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, you're going to love it. I know you already do. Kylie Maston wins the gold medal at the Sun Belt Conference Cross Country Championships, becoming the first women's cross country conference champion.
I'm dancing, right? First time ever in program history, the herd gets an individual champion. And you would have thought the GOAT just graduated, but no, it's big time. Bringing home the first ever individual championship in cross country. Could not be happier for her. Who didn't think that was going to happen? If you're a herd fan, you've listened to this show and you have heard over and over and over the name Kylie Maston. You know, I call her big time because I think that's what she is. And she did not disappoint in the SBC championships. She brought home a freaking individual championship. That is so awesome. Hall of Fame performance. I don't know if you saw the clip of the final, whatever it is, you know,
oh my God,
right at the finish line.
Yeah.
But she kicked it in. She kicked it in, had another notch, had a little bit extra in the tank, would not be freaking denied. She did not only win that race, she ran it running away. It was awesome to see. It was hers to freaking lose, man.
It looked like I'm thinking I got the movie right, Infinity War, when Black Panther and Captain America are just outrunning everybody, you know, in the battle scene. And that's what it looked like. The JMU lady was in front, and then Maston's like running by her 3 times as fast, you know, played it out the final, however many, you know, conserve, kick it into 5th gear, just ran right by her, man.
Yeah, it was awesome to see. I got to say a little special shout out. I'm sure he's listening. Christian Spears, he said something that alluded to, you know, that being a big time moment. And I know he wasn't like using the nickname that I use, but see, it just goes to show you I got a knack for this stuff. It's big. That was big time, and I'm really happy for her. She's been a great ambassador to herd athletics in her capacity as a distance runner for a number of years. Great runner, but how do you like step aside and get out of any sort of shadow that's cast by Abby Harry, right? Because
yeah.
I mean, this is like she would have been. I think Kylie could go down as an all-time great anyway. But just think if they were separated by 2 different eras, you know, the 2 unbelievably great runners just happened to be a year apart from one another.
Right.
So they were teammates for so long. I know that some members of her family interact with us from time to time on social media, obviously, because we're talking about track and field. We're talking about cross country. Look, man, the job that Caleb has done with this distance team, it's apparent. You see it every single season. I think the women, when they finished 3rd, so the 2nd straight podium finish, I believe that they said in the SBC championships. But I know that's not what we're talking about. This is an individual thing, and what a way to get me back behind the mic on some things is talking about big time Kylie Maston bringing home a freaking championship. Saw she got honored a little bit at the football game too, which was awesome. I mentioned a few weeks back when I was at the game, she was like 3 rows behind me after they were done running in Louisville. She was at the game, and I know I said it then. It was all I could do not to turn around and be like, "What's up, big time?" You know, but now she's a champ, man, and you'll never be able to take that one away.
And then she would have had security escort you
like,
out.
Who the hell are you, weirdo?
Number 2, the Sun Belt Conference basketball tournaments, men and women, will have quite the new look this postseason.
Yeah, pause and let's talk about that one because first, before we get into it, we haven't talked about this at all. Like, you know, not even in the capacity of the show, but just like, what are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on it? So I'm going to ask you, you like it or do you not like it?
Both. I could see how, and several people have commented on this. It's not like I have the only take on this, but it should help those people that are the top 4 seeds guarantee that they would, you know, put together the type of season to go on. Because I mean, what was that, 5 buys, 6 buys, or whatever before it gets to them? You know, it gives them an obvious leg up. So if they are that high in RPI and they are that, it should help them a little bit, guarantee that they're going to go, instead of there's an upset and, oh, hey, they had a great season and they just happened to play one bad game, or somebody else played a game better than them, so now they're missing out on the postseason. So, I mean, you kind of like that because we're in a one-bid league.
Yeah.
But goodness gracious. I mean, no days off, and you play first round, second round, third round. Everybody else gets a bye until you get to that round, and you just keep on. I mean, that is going to be tough for the lower seeds. But top to bottom, you look at those in every league, not just the Sun Belt Conference. It is so infrequent that somebody is going to be a 13, 14 seed, or if somebody else has 12 teams, 11, 12 seed, and make it that far anyway.
Yeah.
So I kind of like it. And then I'm kind of like, that is going to be absolutely brutal.
I like it, and here's why I like it. We all love upsets in basketball in March. Let's say in March. What I don't want to have happen is the upset in the conference tournament that could potentially prevent the Sun Belt from having an upset in the tournament, right? I want our best teams to go to the NCAA tournament, or our best team to go to the NCAA tournament, and then make the big upset potentially on a national stage. So no offense to whoever that 10 through 14 team is that are the bottom four. Like, if you earn earn is an understatement. If you make it all the way through the SBC tournament and win and go to the tournament, you've absolutely deserved to be there. But you've got to think, most years, your top four teams are going to have your best opportunity at causing a huge upset in the tournament. So you want to make sure that those four have the best shot of winning the SBC tournament. Is it going to be absolutely brutal for everybody else? Yeah, it is. But win more games in the regular season, and you won't have to worry about that. And I say that fully understanding that more often than not, we will probably have to play 3, 4, 5 games or something, rather than 2 to win. As are most teams. Nobody is perennially going to be a top 1, 2, 3, 4 team. It's too much. Similar.
It's not the same four at the top every year. I know this has only been a few years that we've been in the Sun Belt, but I mean, even before that, it wasn't like that. It was like, this is the team this year, and they usually come out of nowhere. It's not the preseason
like
number one. Yeah, not the preseason number one, and then they finish number one. It's usually like, well, they just pulled away and had a heck of a year, and they're better than everybody else.
Right.
I agree with all that. Obviously, I said, it's going to help benefit those top four and give them a better shot to go in. I just can't help but wonder if maybe there could have been a better way, I don't know, trying to think of one right now, but, your top 8, but you have a couple of play-in games or whatever to get there. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I understand, like, the lack of rest days, I think, is what's alarming most people.
It is. Because you think about the travel, and then you're down there, and think of us as fans. If we were able to go there, I'm never able to go because of work and kids in school and things. But we have a lot of fans that do go. And imagine going as a 13 or 14. No, 13 or 14, and you're down there, and you're just like, all right, and you make a run, and you're like, well, I had to take 9 days off of work, and
you're there for the whole week. The whole week.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand that, but to me, it doesn't trump the argument of having your best team more often than not make it to the NCAA tournament, because if that team goes and wins a game, that really benefits the entire league. If you make it to the round of 32, then that's gonna immensely help the league versus just going to the tournament and dropping out. So I want that more so than being like, oh man, this ain't fair to those bottom tier teams. Again, I'm not trying to be unfair to them, but you need to win more if you don't want to be there. And is that harsh? Maybe, because in any given year we could stink it up, and we're going to be playing from the 12 seed, 13 seed, and you're like, shit, now we've got to do it the whole week. Well, small price to pay, right? Small price.
One of the final things I'm going to say on this thing is when we first came into the Sun Belt, it was announced kind of unofficially and then almost really officially that the Sun Belt leadership were actively going to try to improve basketball.
Yep.
And they've done several things. They've got the Sunbelt MAC challenge, and they take the RPI and try to match those up cross conference, which gives someone a later season boost. Whoever wins that, hopefully it's the Sunbelt every time. But if you happen to have a 35 or whatever RPI, and you've got somebody over there that's a 28 in the MAC, and it lines up that way, and the 35 wins, that's a heck of a boost on their RPI. And you really need to be that high up, you've got to be in the top 32 to make the field of 64. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but with the automatic bids, that's pretty much where you got to be. You really need to be top 20 to guarantee yourself to get in without winning a conference championship in the Sun Belt. Yeah, and then they do this, so they've done several different things to try to boost this conference up. And, I think that it's going to continue to take more investment by each school to do so. But I do like the trend and where it's going.
Yeah, the ultimate goal is to become a multi-bid league. And you're going to have to do things, and not everything is going to work, and you're going to learn in real time things are a bad idea, and you need to change that. And this conference tournament structure might be one of those things that after this year they go, that was horrible. We need to reevaluate how we do that. But for right now, I can't say I'm mad at it, because I want the best teams in the league in the tournament, whether it's my team or not. And if my team is not one of the top 4 teams to get those buys, then I know going in that my team, the Herd, earned their way into the tournament by winning and playing a brutal schedule. They got hot at the right time and they went on a run, and now they're the team to beat. Obviously, you're the team to beat if you start at the bottom of that bracket and make it all the way out of it. I mean, Jiminy Christmas, that's crazy.
All right, number 3, the November 21st through the 24th Orlando multi-team event for women's basketball has now been elevated to NBC Sports.
Yeah, and I think that's a big deal. That's a much larger exposure opportunity for Julie Folks and her squad to get down there and do some damage. We've talked about this before. The field of teams is going to be very, very competitive. I just think this is an awesome opportunity to get the Herd brand, which jumped on the radar for a lot of people last year, to see if we can make a little noise and kind of keep that perception of Herd women's basketball up there a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm assuming it was just going to be on ESPN Plus before this or something, but you take something that's already going up against some name recognition, name brand schools that you're going to play. And you couple this now with it's going to be on NBC Sports. So you're going to get more eyes on there. I have no idea where the RPI for these teams is going to be when we go to play them on November 21st. But besides all that, these are fan bases that have name recognition. They have a lot of alumni. They have a national following, that sort of thing. And now you're going to be playing them on a higher than ESPN Plus, where people are going to tune in and be able to see this.
Yeah, it's more eyeballs. Absolutely, it's more eyeballs, and also what that is it's not just eyeballs for the national media and people when it comes to deciding if you're a good team or not come tournament time. But that's eyeballs from potential recruits that are looking at you like, oh, I like that style of play. How many times have we recruited people that probably have been like, I've never even heard of Marshall until I got recruited. Look, I know it happens. I know it has happened because there's no state of Marshall. You know what I mean? So it's one of those universities that people go, Marshall, I've heard of that. Don't know where it is. So it's an opportunity for people to go, oh, I like Julie Folks in this system. I like, this is my kind of ball. And then all of a sudden, this is a big thing. This helps in several different aspects other than just, national eyeballs that get to watch you play from a fan standpoint.
That Penn State game is Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Now, granted, in November, you're still going to have Thursday college football to compete against, but
but you're not recruiting football players to play women's basketball, right? So women's basketball players are probably watching that.
Maybe we should. That'd help with rebounding. All right, number 4, the Mountain State Derby, and yes, that is the correct way to say it. I have been educated on that, reading up on it a little bit. But the Mountain State Derby on Tuesday will be for the Sun Belt Conference regular season championship. WVU has 18 points to Marshall's 16 points. Marshall will win the championship and the number 1 overall seed in the tournament with a win. WVU is the champion with a win or a tie. So we early in the season said it could come down to this game, and it is. And it's a sellout, and it's going to be huge. But it's still, no matter the last couple of games where we've had some hiccups and come up with draws, we still have the opportunity to win another Sun Belt Conference regular season championship.
And that is the position you want to be in. It's control your own destiny. It's not, well, we got to handle our business and then we need a little help.
Yeah.
No, it's one game. It's a 1-game season, and it's going. You're going to have every advantage that you could ask for. That place is going to be packed to the gills, right? You're gonna have 2 highly motivated teams that want to not only capture the championship, capture the number 1 overall seed for the conference tournament. They're going to be able to want to have in-state bragging rights, right? This has turned into such a marquee event in the state of West Virginia. I mean, who would have thought that it's college soccer would have been the game that feeds the thirst of a lot of fans, you know, and it's a totally different vibe than if it were football. It's just such a different thing, and I think a lot of fans are here for it. You know, on both sides.
Oh yeah,
on both sides. So this is the hugest of the huge games, and we all knew. I think a lot of people from our side of the fence and their side of the fence circled that last game and went, that's what it's going to come down to, because we all tend to just take care of it. You know, like we're going to be one of the top 2 at the end, and they probably thought they were going to be one of the top 2 at the end. And, you know, UCF took a step back this year. Kentucky took a little bit of a step back this year. And, you know, it was kind of like the Herd and the Mountaineers and to a degree, everybody else. You know, It's not like everybody else was horrible and it was us too. It was just like the other 2 or 3 top teams the past couple of years just took a step back. James Madison was there and was tough, but it was still, they were a notch behind the Herd, a notch behind the Mountaineers.
Depending on how the rankings show on Tuesday before this game comes out, and I'm talking about not the crap ratings that came out for the top 16 recently. I mean, the United Coaches poll that comes out every Tuesday.
You mean the NCAA's ranking the top 16 teams? That was such bull.
Those are crap, man. But anyway, United Coaches poll.
Yeah,
those 2 teams have been top 10. We mentioned before, top 10 all season long. So if that holds true, and we're number 6, number 7 right now, it looks like that's kind of a lock, I think.
Yeah.
You're looking at a top 10 matchup. You're looking at winner. If there's no draw, winner gets the championship. You're looking at an in-state rivalry. You know, you're looking at 2 teams that are supposed to go really far in the NCAA tournament and the Sun Belt Conference tournaments after this. But you've got the seeding on the line too, about where's everybody going to play, that sort of thing. There's just so much going into this match that just is going to be electric. You know, I mean, everything about it, it's one of those. The only thing that could make it better is if like both teams were like undefeated coming in, and it just, you know what I'm saying, we're like number 1 and 2 in the nation or something like that. But it just going to be such an amazing game.
Yeah, that would be such a rarefied thing to ever happen.
Right.
But this is as big as it gets anyway. It's as big as it gets. You know, this is the biggest in-state probably game of all games of all schools all year. You know, especially when there's only 2 Division I schools. So obviously this is the biggest matchup amongst those 2 schools. But taking into account all the other colleges and all the other universities and all the high schools and everything, this is probably the number 1 in-state event. And I'm talking about, there's some very heated high school football games that mean a lot to a lot of people. But this has a bigger prize on the line. It has bigger bragging rights on the line, and ultimately it has a leg up to a potential national championship on the line. it's just, I just can't get past it. Even though we've performed really, really unbelievably well in soccer the past however many years, and so have they, it still boggles my mind that the epicenter of collegiate soccer often runs through the Mountain State.
Yeah.
And here we are, and we're going to host this huge game in Huntington, West Virginia, in our house, surrounded by our fans, in a packed-out vet. And you can't ask for anything more than that, man. You just cannot ask for a better environment with more on the line, and to be able to, and to know that if you go out and win the game, you win the championship. That's it.
Well, maybe we can ask for more. So
winning.
Not that. Our fifth and final thing is, if you like Marshall, pepperoni rolls, and moonshine, you'll probably want to stop by the Tom Bragg / Russ Livingood joint tailgate before this match. And I'm hoping to have some documentation on some photos, maybe go live while we're there, try to get the atmosphere and everything. But it's going to be an absolute blast. Everyone should know Tom Bragg's a huge soccer guy. He's a huge sports guy and things like that. And he's always down there tailgating. So I said, Tom, can I get in on this? And, I make a whole thing of pepperoni rolls. He's going to make them. We're going to do a little, me versus him type deal with that. And it's always good to have some moonshine floating around. And it's not going to get any more West Virginia than that. Let's just say that.
That's a good point. I bet that'll be a good time. So everybody that's going to come out to the game, and of course, not everybody's going to listen to this before they go to the match, but they will show up and park and be like, "Hey, what's going on over there?"
Yeah.
If you're hearing this, feel free to stop by and say what's up. I'm sure it's open to everybody. They can't promise you there's a ton of food left or a ton to drink left, but you're welcome to stay high. Say hi.
What? What just happened? No, they're going to park and they're going to get out and go, why's that guy got no shirt on?
Yeah. Sir, it's 4:00. What are you doing?
It's a Monday. Why are you out here? But that brings an end to the 5 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite Link.
Yeah, man, that game's going to be a lot of fun. I wish I could be there for it. I wish I was able to have been in, by the house here so that I could have shot down to Lexington and watched the Herd the other day. But, I'm not able to do much of anything when it's my work week, but that would have been cool nonetheless. But I tell you what, I was able yesterday. I did not catch a call out, so I was able to sit at the house here. Didn't know this was going to happen, of course, because I was on call. Just the phone never rang, and so I was able to sit and watch the Herd game in its entirety, and that was a shocker. So let's relive this ULM game, shall we? Because this is before, I'm going to go way, way back to our season prediction episode. And this was before we knew ULM was going to be any good whatsoever. We just thought they were going to be historically, like they always are, just kind of bad, like 3-win team, 3-win team. Well, it turns out they're not. They're a 5-win team right now, and they're still kicking around very much the possibility of bowl eligibility. And, they've run into a little bit of a rough patch here the last couple of weeks with South Alabama and now the Herd. But remember what I said then. I said, if you lose to ULM, I don't know how you recover from that, meaning the coaching staff. I don't know how you go unscathed. You can't just lose to ULM at home. Well, as they won more games, that became a little bit more worrisome. And then we lost to Georgia Southern the way we lost, and they, won another game, and then we won a game, and then they lost a game. And I'm like, man, I don't know what they expected. This was not what I thought it was going to be 2 months earlier. Well, nonetheless, ULM came to town, and for the second time ever, the Herd played the Warhawks. And back then they were, what were they called? Northeast Louisiana or something like that.
Well, and they had a different mascot name too. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the 1987 1AA National Championship game that was played in Idaho. And we mentioned this before, I think, or maybe I just had the notes. I just had the notes because I couldn't do the show. That's right. I went back and I looked at that bracket. The Herd was unseeded in that bracket. The ULM at the time was the number 1 overall seed in that bracket in the 87 playoffs. Marshall went through James Madison, by the way. They went through then number 2 seed Appalachian State to get to the championship game to face the number 1 seed ULM or whatever they were back then, and ended up losing by a point, 43-42. So, man, that 87 team, we've talked about them sparingly here and there and how good they were and how underrated they are in the hierarchy of all-time great herd teams, because now you're talking about a really long time, at least in football terms, from that happening. But that was, Tony Peterson at quarterback and some all-time great herd players. But think about that for a second. An unseeded herd team goes through two conference mates now and lost to a third conference mate in the 1AA national title, or in the 1AA playoffs, some 30, 40 some years ago, whatever. That's just so cool to me in and of itself.
It's interesting. You mentioned our season preview episode and where you had talked about ULM, but do you recall where you and I both said that they would be? We broke it down, first 4 games, then another 4 games, then another 4 games. So after 8 games, do you remember where both of us said they would be?
I would imagine we're right where we thought we would be.
5-3.
Yeah.
We said 2-2 after the first 4 games. That's where we were. And then we both said we would go 3-1 during the second 4 games. And I said, it seems like you're going to lose a game you should win. And every now and then you win a game that you should lose or something like that. But it's eerie that it's kind of come down that way, that it would be 2-2 and 3-1 and 5-3 overall. And it's exactly where it is. You and I both said that. Nobody said, hey, we're going to lose to App, we're going to lose to Georgia Southern. We just said, out of these 4 games, I kind of see us being 3-1.
I didn't say that, but I did say this. I said, I think the herd goes undefeated at home. So I did not think we would lose to App State. I did not, even if they turned out to be the App that we figured they would be. Mm-hmm. I didn't think we would lose to them at home on homecoming. Yeah. I did think we would lose a road game. So if it wasn't Georgia Southern, who would it have had to have been? Who else did we?
It didn't. We had, this was the 3 games and 1 away, 3 home games, 1 away.
Well, I wonder how we both landed there, but I didn't think we were going to lose a home game. Yeah, well.
No. It would have been, you would have been saying Georgia Southern. You just didn't say Georgia Southern.
I got you.
Yeah. So, and then just as a quick preview and aside, both of us said 3-1 in the final 4, putting us at 8-4.
Mm-hmm. Which now we know ain't probably going to do it, No,
unless Georgia Southern really, they have to lose twice, more for us to have that, to get 1 more loss.
So I know we got this recap to get into, but we're on an excellent line of conversation here. So I just want to bring this point up, since now we know that most likely Marshall's going to have to win out to capture a Sun Belt Conference Championship game berth. Mm-hmm. That would mean for the second time in Coach Huff's tenure here at Marshall, he would have an undefeated November. You remember that? We had one a couple of years ago, and we missed
22.
out. We missed out on that conference championship game appearance because of the bad quarter against Coastal Carolina. So we know now that if we went out, that would mean 2 not consecutive, but 2 undefeated Novembers, since ULM was just the other day. That's November. Would put Marshall into a conference championship game. And when you think about that, 2 undefeated Novembers, that's the games that matter the most by and large, because you know what you have to have at that point. You know if one can slip away or if you've got to run the table. But just running the table in November is incredibly hard, because you're banged up, whatever it is. And will have done that twice. I think that says something.
Yeah. But even if we do that, we still have to have help. Georgia Southern still got to lose another game.
Yes, they have to lose
another game.
That's right. But it's all for naught. Unless they fall off a shelf and lose a bunch of games, Yeah. But from the outside looking in, I think their best shot at losing a game is probably going to be against Appalachian State in the final, the rivalry game, rivalry week. Appalachian State has been on the other side of that coin, where Georgia State has tried to play spoiler to them for the past number of years, more often than not. And now App's going to be on this side of the coin, trying to play spoiler to Georgia Southern potentially. I like App State to do that. If I've got to point to one, I don't know that I can put a lot of faith in Troy. Sorry, I don't know that I can put a lot of faith anywhere else. It's just, I think all of my chips as a Herd fan are going to have to be pushed in on Appalachian State to try to beat Georgia Southern. But one game at a time. It doesn't mean anything if we don't win. We got to win. But luckily, we kicked it all off with a win against ULM, 28-23 in front of 21,478 fans on a beautiful sunshiny day in Huntington, West Virginia, just the other day, bringing the Herd to 5-3, 3-1, like we just said, tied for first technically in the SBC East standings, but we know not. We are behind Georgia Southern. They own the tiebreaker. So it's essentially we're like what would you call that? A half game out in the loss column or something, or what?
Yeah, and we're not. I don't think we're technically tied. I think they're 4-1 and we're 3-1.
Are they?
I'm pretty sure. I think when you were looking at that, they had not updated that yet to show them as 4-1.
I waited. I waited until that happened. They're 4-1 and we're 3-1. So
yeah,
in the loss column. Oh yeah.
We're behind. So it's not even a tiebreaker yet because they still have to have a bye. I know, but they still have to have a bye and us catch up to them for conference games.
Listen, I am not a fan of them this year, but damn, how impressive is it they've got 2 fourth quarter 20+ point comebacks. I mean, damn. That sticks right in your craw. Freaking South Alabama had that game, dude. It was 34-13. They scored 2 touchdowns in a minute. And I'm like, God. Anyway, let's get into this one because that's what we really care about.
Yeah.
Total yards, time of possession, first downs, third downs, penalties, and turnovers. We talk about them every week. What a wild one because ULM won their share of those indicators, but it was not enough. Total yards, 388 for ULM, just 371 for the Herd. Time of possession, 32-27 for ULM, 27-33 for the Herd. 20 first downs for Marshall, 17 for ULM edge Herd. Third down conversions, 3 of 11 for ULM, just 5 of 11 for Marshall, but edge Herd. Penalties, wow, it's a pretty decent penalty day for Marshall. I've got to be honest with you. 5 for 40 for ULM, just 2 for 20 for the Herd, and turnovers, 1 for ULM, none for the Herd. Well, before we get in deeper to that, I can't believe that our pals, the SBC refs, did not call the OPI, excuse me, on that final touchdown.
You're right there. You're right there looking at it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it was Moten. Was it Josh Moten that got pushed like completely?
I don't know. Moten. I haven't watched the rewatch, and from my angle looking where my seats are and everything, I was focused on the receiver and not the defensive back.
Oh God.
So I couldn't see the number, but I mean it was an egregious push off.
Yes, absolutely it was. I saw it in real time as it was playing. The camera was great camera work on that one. I was like, Jiminy Christmas, there's got to be a flag coming in. No flag. So, rough one. But ULM wins total yardage. They win time of possession. They're right neck and neck in first downs. But it's the turnover really, and it didn't really mean anything. It was early in the first quarter, and it was a missed field goal that happened. So it was a non-issue, honestly. Let's talk about the stats, though, for the Herd guys. Braylon Braxton goes the distance for the Herd, 10 of 19 for $166 and a touchdown. Should have been 2. 12 carries for 25 yards for Braylon. Jordan Houston leads the way for the Herd, 9 carries, 80 rushing yards, 8.9 yards per carry, and a long of 45. Beautiful run play at the perfect time. And then 2 receptions for 29 yards, good for 14.5 yards per reception with a long of 33. Jordan had a great day. Added a great kick returner too also. Ethan Payne, the senior on senior day, 8 carries for 51 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, including the final score of the game to get the Herd back in the lead. Good day for the senior. Happy for Ethan on that one. 6.4 yards per carry. A.J. Turner had 12 carries, 49 yards, and a touchdown. Still good for 4.1 yards per carry, but he left injured and did not return. We'll see how that one plays out against Southern Miss coming up this week. Chuck Montgomery leads the way for the Herd in receptions and receiving yards. 4 receptions for 68 yards. It's 17 yards per reception, had a long of 30. And Christian Fitzpatrick had just 2 catches, but for 44 yards and a beauty of a touchdown to end that 2-play drive right after Jordan Houston's 45-yard run. That's good for 22 yards per reception and a long, like I said, a 33 on the touchdown. I know what you're going to say. The refs got it right, but damn, that was a beautiful catch. I don't care what you say. I think it was a touchdown. Even if
I think the rule is stupid. And the first time that I ever saw that was Calvin Johnson in the NFL. They had just changed that rule, and he controlled the ball, even palmed it in one hand, and put the ball as he was going out of bounds after getting both feet down for the touchdown. He kind of used the ball with the palm to get up, and it kind of squirted out, and they're like, well, that's not completing the catch. I'm like, if there was a catch in the dictionary, it would be that, brother. And this was kind of one of those same things, but the way the rule is written, they overturned it. I think that it would be hard to overturn because it was ruled a touchdown, even with the way it was written. So I could get you there. But I mean, see what you're saying and what everybody else is saying, I could go with you. But the way it's written, the ball came out, and
it didn't. He didn't come out. He just bobbled it. He never it never hit the ground.
No, but he had his other hand was out of bounds in the back of the end zone when the ball came out. So then technically it would be out. You know what I mean? The ball didn't hit the ground. The ball came out, him not controlling while he had a hand on the ground. It's semantics.
So crazy.
It's semantics, but the way the rule is written, I mean, the refs kind of have to go by the rule. And,
yes, they do. But that's what it's like. You know it when you see it, just like you're talking about with Calvin Johnson. That's a freaking catch. It was a touchdown. But here's my thing. Like when you're talking about a run play, they say, all right, well, as soon as the ball breaks the plane of the end zone, it's a touchdown and it's over. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. You stretch the ball out and it breaks the plane and then somebody punches it out. It ain't a fumble. It's a touchdown.
Well, so listen to this. Ashley and I were watching. That's my wife for anybody that doesn't know and listening or watching this. Ashley and I was watching football earlier in the week, and I can't remember the team now. Somebody's going to remember exactly the play I'm talking about. Guy catches a ball in the end zone. And as he's falling, the one foot is in, the other foot is coming down, and a defensive back just, checks him and knocks him out of the back of the end zone. He did not lower his leg at all to drag that second foot. And this is NFL that I'm talking about. And it's not a catch, because that anymore. It used to be a judgment. Would he have come down in bounds before they hit it? They took all that away and they ruled it to where now all you got to do is knock him into the third row and it's not a catch.
That's right.
So by the letter of the law kind of deal, you're like, well, no, that's not a catch. And it's the same thing for me with Fitzpatrick. It's highly unfortunate. It did not change the game. Win or lose.
It could have.
It could have, but it didn't. We won. We won is what I'm saying. Otherwise, you're looking at even more scrutiny on this play. So luckily we ended up winning no matter what, but letter of the law, that's not a catch.
So here's my thing. Going back to where I talked about reaching over the goal line and it being done, touchdown at that point. I think that's what it should be as it relates to a catch when it's like you break the plane with a run and it's over. Well, okay, maybe not both feet, but he got both feet, a third step, and 2 knees. Like that should be enough to go catch, touchdown. You know what I mean? Like at that point, you've had enough contact with the ground to where
you've established yourself.
Who cares if you control the ball the rest of the way? Yeah. You got two feet, took a step, got both knees. I don't care if the ball squirts out.
Because what it turns into, and this is the way that it's written, what it turns into is, does he have to take the damn ball back over to the bench and hand it to somebody?
Pretty much that's what they want to see you do.
And it needs to be changed. But right now it hadn't been changed, so that's why I am where I am, is it wasn't a catch. Now, do I want it to be a catch? 100%.
Yeah, because it was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's change. Let's take that rule they have and then put a comma and say unless they get 2 feet down and 2 knees down, and then the play is over.
Yeah,
Done.
I mean, 3 seconds goes by. Does somebody go over and punch the ball out? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to celebrate. Somebody, I think the problem is he went to the ground, but if the defensive back doesn't tackle him after he's already caught a touchdown, that doesn't happen. Yeah. He wasn't falling to make the catch. The guy tackled him in the end zone after he had caught the ball.
That's right.
And the rule is stupid. But
it's poorly worded.
It is.
But for the life of me, nobody has been able to define what a catch is in an official capacity for probably going on a decade now. And it only seems to get worse as they try to clean it up. Anyway, let's move on to the defensive side of the football. Jaden Yates, shocker, leads the team in total tackles with 10, one of those solo adds a tackle for loss and half of a sack. Mike Green, holy moly, Mike Green, 9 total tackles, 4 solo, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 2 more sacks on the season. Great freaking day by Mike Green. J.J. Roberts and J.C. Anderson. J.J. gets 7 total tackles, 5 solo. J.C. gets 6, 2 solo, and a half a tackle for loss. Impact plays for the Herd in this one. 3 sacks, 2 by Mike Green, and a half a sack by Jaden Yates and Tyquez Legs. 1 interception comes by Josh Moten in the first quarter. Team tackle, 8 tackles for loss by the team, and 1 pass defended. Switching into special teams, it was a really wild day. Reese Verhoff just went stone cold again, 0 of 2 on field goals, but remains perfect at 4 of 4 on extra points. Alec Clark, 3 punts, 142 total yards, a 47.3 yard average. I don't know what this cat is eating, but his yardage average has shot up like crazy the last couple of games. 2 land inside the 20 and a long of 60, and that long of 60 may have been the most unbelievable play of the game, perhaps of the season for Marshall University football. If you didn't see it, it's readily available. It's out there. It made its round on national social media outlets. He made one hell of a play on not a bad snap. I think he looked away for a second, and it just turned into something that could have been horrible. Yeah. And he ended up not only flipping the field, but that ball settled on the 19-yard line. Great play by Alec Clark. That's it in a nutshell. How about we go straight to grades? What do you got for Braylon Braxton against ULM?
I've got a B+, not a bad game whatsoever. The only true kind of dings I'm going to go with is seemed to be having a slight problem with check downs and things like that. He got rattled with their pass rush and things like that. Took 2 sacks. You can put that on the offensive line. You can put it on him. It seemed to be at least a combination of the two, and that some indecisiveness of where to throw, what to do kind of deal. Only thing, I mean, did he put up amazing stats? No, but he led us to victory. So very good game for him, but B+ with just a slight ding on some indecisiveness.
B+ is fair. A couple things. 2 beautiful passes to Fitzpatrick.
Amazing.
Both should have been touchdowns, right? Which we've alluded to already. A couple of things for me that I saw while watching the game from a much different viewpoint than what you had. There were several opportunities in that game where Braylon stepped back and actually did eventually take off and run. And it looked like they were actually designed runs, but it was like he didn't just take off, and he should have. He had a lot of green grass. It was over towards the opposing sideline, I think both times, where the green grass was, and he waited kind of and then took off and allowed the defense to kind of limit him, or even I think he may have only gotten a no gain or a 1-yard gain one time when he had tons of yardage over there. But other than that, it was just a little bit of indecisiveness at times. He went stone cold a little bit in the middle of the game. We had some 3 and outs. The thing that bummed me out the most, and I don't know if you can pin this on coaching, play calling, or execution, was after the first punt that landed on inside ULM territory in the 4th. I think it was in the 4th. And I was like, this is where the killer instinct has to happen, because you just got it on a short field on the 48 or 47. And this is where that instinct has to kick in. You have to go down the field and you have to put something on the board. And we go run, pass, punt. And that sucked. But immediately the defense stood tall and we got a second consecutive possession on ULM territory. And we were able to do a little more something with that. But overall, B+ is okay. I think we know who these quarterbacks are by now.
Yeah.
I just think we know who they are.
I do think, and again, I said this a couple of episodes ago, and I invited anybody. It's right there at Russ Living Good. Feel free to disagree with me, but it just seems like our downfield passing goes away when Braxton's in there for a large portion of the game. Now, I'm not saying he can't do it, because look at those freaking beautiful passes that he had. You know, it just seems like it's either the play calling switches because, hey, let's give this guy what fits his skill set and toolbox the best, or a combination of the I'm not sure where to throw indecisive kind of reads on things. Stone Earl was passing down the field more often, and it seemed to help stretch those defenses. But you cannot argue with the success that Braylon Braxton has had, and I'm by no means saying that he's not able to throw, because he keeps proving it time after time with beautiful touchdown passes. You know, I would like to see him throw down the field more is a big summation of what I'm saying here.
Yeah, I think I would too, but again, at this point, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. Like,
right?
Marshall's not all of a sudden going to start passing for 400 yards a game. Like, we know what we're getting. We know what we're getting. You're getting 120 to 160 passing yards a game. You might get a touchdown or two, but you're going to rely heavily on your run game, and that's Marshall's recipe to victory. And I'm not. I don't want to change it right now, because they can win every game remaining on the schedule with that formula.
I just feel like if he did it a little more often, it would help us not stall as much as we have throughout some of the season. You know, some of the games during the season, our offense seems to stall. It's the middle of the game. You know, you start having a couple of 3 and outs, or, you know, I just feel like you can see the success there when he does it, you know.
Yeah, and sometimes it is down the field and sometimes it isn't, right? Because it's for the second time that I can think of that you've seen a big, long, short pass to a running back that's gone for a long gain. And you look at that, you got a 33-yarder to Houston, you've got a 30-yarder to Montgomery, and you've got a 33-yarder to Fitz, and that's 96 of your 166 yards.
And two of those were very short passes.
Yeah,
and Montgomery and Houston.
And now you're at 7 more completions for another 70 yards. And while that averages out to a first down, essentially, we know that's not what it was. You know, there were 12-yard passes in there and 15-yard passes in there and that kind of thing. So I'm with you. I'd like to see it at least maybe 2 or 3 more times a game. I don't need to see 10 down the field.
No, just I feel like that if we did that, it would open up the offense that much more, allow the running game to do better, and it just seems like, I mean, Fitzpatrick's right there. He's winning a lot of those jump balls. You know, I would just like to see it a couple more times. And
I think maybe once a quarter, 1 more per quarter, if even, might open up that extra little sliver of daylight for Jordan Houston, or that extra sliver for even Braylon and AJ. What do you got for this offense as a whole?
I got a C+, and it's a couple of sacks and some others that were dangerously close to being sacks. You had 3 and outs, and a couple of those were at dangerous portions of the game to do that. Luckily, we had a great game by Alec Clark to kind of mitigate those 3 and outs. Otherwise, they could have been looking at short field, you know, situations. So C+, would have loved to seen us getting it going a lot earlier, and it seemed like it kicked in kind of in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Marshall been doing a pretty good job on their opening drives lately of moving the ball down the field, getting points. They did that again, except for the field goal was missed, right? And I don't know if you noticed it, but I noticed it on the game. because I'm getting the camera shot from behind the goalpost. As soon as Reese kicked the ball, he was like he knew immediately that he had missed that. But nonetheless, the offense moved straight down the field and put themselves in a position to get some points. They stalled in the red zone or whatever, but it is what it is. You still score. The thing that concerned me a little bit was early in that game, it seemed like Marshall had a hard time like holding on to the football. You see Doc Chapman fumble the football and then luckily recover it. That ULM guy had his hands on that. He had his body on that, and the weird shape of the football, of course, causes those things to just squirt out. And luckily, we were able to get a hold of that. But the herd dodged several bullets in this one, several bullets.
Mm-hmm.
You could see it was apparent offensively through the middle of the game. Outside of that those first couple of drives when there was some rust there. It didn't seem like they were like mid-season form. It seemed like they needed to work some rust off, and it hung around there for the most of the first half. And that's what scared, I think, me for sure, but probably a lot of Herd fans. Like, man, we've seen a lot of second half meltdowns here lately, making games interesting. Even if you didn't lose, you made it interesting, and they made it interesting again, but we did enough this week, and I'll have more on that later. What do you got for this defense?
This was the hardest grade for me, and I went back and forth a couple times, and I was like, that's not fair, that's not fair, that's not fair. I settled at something that I'm still not really truly satisfied with, but I'm going B-. And the rushing yards that we gave up was a large part of that.
Mm-hmm.
But this freshman Hardy that we're talking about he's an absolute load, and 80 of those yards came on one play.
It did.
And besides, and I don't know if you got to watch or listen to my one-man show preview, but I went over what I thought was kind of a little weird thing. They were under 300 yards a game. Their offense was nothing that showed like it was going to be great. 26.2 of their total yards on the year came from the longest play of each player. It's over 20 yards and above. So chunk plays that are the longest. So if a guy had a 51-yard reception and a 49-yard reception, only the 51 was going into that.
Right.
They had so many chunk plays, 53, 51, 49, 44, 43, on and on and on in running and receiving, that the amounts were staggering. An almost anemic offense without those chunk plays. And they were already crazy low on that. Their passing attack was averaging 11 out of 20 for 127 yards coming into this game. The guy had threw before their final drive where they scored the touchdown on the non-call pass interference, offensive pass interference. The guy threw 10 passes the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
And we shut them down except for, again, a chunk play. It's 41-yarder. And then they had an 80-yard run. And it's just like, all right, besides these things, which they've been doing all year, we kind of controlled them and had a pretty good effort. But you just can't give up that much rushing. You can't let them come down in 3 plays, 4 plays, whatever it was, and go 75 yards to put us in jeopardy of
damn right.
Yeah.
You needed one stop, and you don't have enough time to make a comeback,
But there were other things that we did so well with, Mike Green getting the tackle for loss and the sack back to back. Where was that? The interception by Moten earlier in the game. They did enough good to counteract a lot of this bad. And you're looking at, man, if it weren't for a couple of those plays, you got an obvious pass interference call on the offense that was not there, wasn't called. And then if you could just come up with a tackle, touch that guy, a shoestring tackle, knock him out of bounds, whatever, so you don't give up an 80-yard run. And then the 41-yarder out of nowhere, past the running back. We came really close to putting up an amazing defensive performance.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
But
So
you
that's
didn't.
why it was so hard for me. I was in the like anywhere from the C- to B area on this, going back and forth, and I finally settled on B-, but it probably should be somewhere around C.
So here's the thing. You give up a fluky touchdown to start the
Right.
scoring for them. Fluky.
Yeah. Mhm.
That and that was another one of those things that worried me, because I was like, oh God, we've missed 2 field goals. They get a fluky score. We've almost fumbled the football. This is not feeling good. This feels like one of those things where nothing's going to go right for us, and they're just going to have enough lucky plays to pull out a win. Well, obviously it didn't happen that way, but you're right. You give up an 80-yard run, which is terrible, but that Hardy guy, man, he's for real. I mean,
he is amazing.
If
he's really good.
if he is still at ULM next year, I would be surprised. You know what I mean? But I will say this: you did not have a great defensive day. Anytime, I don't care if you do give it an 80-yard run. If you give up 200 yards rushing to a running back, you're losing a letter grade easy. Now that was through basically 3 quarters. And I remember tweeting like, oh my God, they're just going to ride this guy's legs to victory because we can't do anything with him. And what happened? He went out of the game in the fourth quarter. They got a few good licks on him in the fourth quarter. They had to start running a different running back in the fourth quarter, not nearly as effectively as Hardy was running. So the Herd stepped up late when they needed to and shut down that run game enough to thwart that offensive attack that they relied on, and then they get a non-call OPOI for a touchdown. So it was fluky plays, but still for 3 quarters, it was really freaking worrisome.
Now
they did enough. That's all right, but they did enough, and that's all that matters. I don't care. I'll win 28-27 if I have to, because at the end of the day, it's a freaking win, and that's all that matters.
I said it earlier. I didn't complete this thought, but going into that final drive, he had thrown 10 times, talking about Aiden Armenta, and he was 6 out of 10 for 100 yards through going into that final drive. And then he went 3 for 3 for 49 yards in that final drive. Maybe it's even more than that. Maybe it's 51 yards. But anyway, you get the point. And we had him around 100 yards passing. And as anemic as their offense averaged going into that through the air, we were even lower than that. So we were doing a good job. But, man, the rushing, I mean, 8.3.
That's
8.3.
gross.
Yeah.
I mean, that is gross. It is gross. And, you couple that with the fact that AJ left injured and did not have a typical day. And now Hardy has overtaken AJ for the Sunbelt rushing lead. So now, AJ's looking up, to see if he can recapture that. And how healthy will he be going into Southern Miss? And we don't really know, and we may not know until game time. Like, they just hold injuries close to the vest, and but that's unfortunate. If AJ stays healthy, this had the billing to be a battle of the top 2 backs, and one had a great day and our guy got hurt, but ultimately our committee of running backs carried the load, and Ethan Payne got the scores we needed. Jordan Houston got the big run that we needed to set up the passing touchdown. So you got to give props where props are due. One guy went down, but the other 2 guys stepped up in a bigger way than usual. And boy, the Herd needed it.
To bring it back full circle before we move on to the next grade, I talked about that 26.2% chunk play out of total yards. 178 of their 388 or whatever it was came on 3 chunk plays for this, or let's see, 4 chunk plays. Sorry, 4 chunk plays. Gets 178 yards out of their 388 that they finished with. So it's like they did what they did all season long. A lot of times on these previews, we say, here's what the stats show is going to happen. And you don't know. It's not going to – you're just saying this is what's happened so far. It's an indicator of what it might be. It almost happened exactly freaking like what that was. And that's not because – I did some kind of deep dive and, I should go to Vegas and change my job and just go bet on outcomes and stuff like that. It just turned out exactly how they have done kind of all year.
Yeah, and you're a no call penalty, and a fluky catch away from that being way off. To the bad for them.
Yeah, and we were really close too to what Vegas had predicted. Without them, if they wave off that touchdown and then it's 28-17, that's really close to around where Vegas was looking too.
All right, let's talk about the special teams. Up and down for the special teams. What do you got?
I got a D, and man, does Alec Clark do a whole lot of heavy lifting, but also the interception on the 2-point conversion try. I'm calling that a special teams play, though, so that brings it up a lot because missing 2 field goals, that could have cost us the game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you add 6 more points on there, and that game ain't close going into that final drive. They get it to 23, and you're like, okay, we're still at 34.
Even if you get to 25, it doesn't matter. If you make the 2 point, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I had forgotten about the interception by JJ. Beautiful play, by the way, on that one. I didn't care one bit that he wasn't able to turn that up and go the other way for a score. Dude, that was a beautiful extension to not only just knock the ball away, but he grabbed a hold of the damn thing. I had completely forgotten about that play. That was awesome. I think that's fair. Anytime you take points off the board, you leave points off the board on special teams, that's bad as far as a grade goes. And Reese had been hot, and all of a sudden he was not, and I don't get it. But that's college kickers, man. Still love the kid. I think he's a good kicker. All those things. But Alec Clark, phenomenal play. Like I said, if we did the thing where we did like the top 10 plays of the 24 season, that could be like a top 3 play. It could be. I don't know, but
it sure could have gone the other way.
It could have been, a scoop and score for touchdown or first and goal from the 1 maybe, but man, what a play. But outside of Jordan Houston, a couple of good returns. I think Chuck had a 12-yard punt return.
12-yard punt return.
We did a decent job on kick coverage and punt coverage. So, that it is what it is. Nothing. It's the points off the board that really magnify it. So, fair grade. Coaches, what you got?
I got an A-. I don't really disagree with anything they did on when they went for 4th down. I thought it was especially after we had missed 2 field goals earlier in the game. I felt like that was the right call. I guess, coming out flat, but I don't know, man. I mean, like, I don't think it matters. B+, A- is really close to each other, but it's hard. This is always the hard one because the coaches aren't on the field doing the thing. You call a play and a guy misses a read to a wide open guy and he gets sacked. I'm not saying that happened. This is just a scenario. Is that on the coach, the offensive coordinator, for calling that play? Right. It's not, so I don't know. I didn't find any fault with any decision that we made, even when we took the time out, on the crazy formation that ULM took.
On the 4th and whatever that the tight end.
It was third down. Yeah, it wasn't even 4th down. It was. I'm talking about when the line split out. Line went to the
you're
left.
Talking about a different play.
Yeah. This was third and goal from like the 2 or something like that, and they had the quarterback in shotgun, and he was the only person behind the center, and everybody else was either to the left far and right far. And coach took a timeout. I think it's safe to do that.
Yeah, of course.
So like, I didn't see any kind of call, any kind of thing that you could say, man, that was bad decision right there to do this, to go for it, to do. So A- for me.
No, I'll tell you what the difference maker was to me. It was after seeing a collapse at Georgia Southern and feeling like it was possible in this one, it all of a sudden did not become possible. That to me was the difference and why it's a better grade than I otherwise would give. Because I felt like at some point on that sideline, they went, all right, enough shit. Like, we got to go win this damn game.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly when it happened for me because I had to run to the bathroom real quick. It started right after that. We hold them and they get a field goal instead of getting a touchdown right after that formation that I'm talking about. And then Jordan Houston goes 45 yards and then we throw the touchdown, 2 plays, touchdown. And then after that, the defense starts like shutting down this running game. And it seems like at that point, the coaches went over and was like, here's our adjustments. Here's what we need. They're killing us by running this. It seemed to stop and the momentum drastically changed. Right.
Well, it changed for one that Hardy was out of the game. They scored that touchdown, I think either the first or second play inside at the start of the fourth quarter.
Quarter.
Then you're behind to start the fourth quarter, essentially.
I think it was a field goal. It wasn't a touchdown. That put them up 17-14.
Oh, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They took I meant to say they took the lead right inside the fourth quarter. So now you're behind in the fourth quarter, and you're like, nope, enough. We've let enough shit happen. We've let enough opportunities just slide by, and now we're going to have to do something. And I think that's what it was. It was the 2-play touchdown drive to regain the lead immediately. And then the run defense started to clamp down a little bit more. Hardy was not in the game as much, and then he was not in the game at all. And then it was the last thing for me was knowing you pick up 1 first down and you win the game. There just will not be enough clock. There are no timeouts. That's it. You go, you have to get it. Now go get it. And that was all I needed. I'm not going to say these guys killed it all game long. They didn't. But when they're in those moments, they won those moments. And a couple of weeks ago, we lost those moments. And that's the difference. So
that's a good point.
What do you got for the fans?
D, you said 21-478, and I had not seen the box score. I mean, I'd seen the box score, but I hadn't gone down to the attendance. So I went and I thought, man, did he look at the wrong thing? Did he transpose the first 2 numbers? And I went, nope, they sure as hell said 21-478. Brother, there wasn't 21-478 there.
That's what I said.
It was bad, too, that at 12:30, I'm looking out in the parking lot, and it's a ghost town. And I said, there ain't going to be a whole lot of people here. People showed up around 2 to 2:30 is when it started filling out a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. Not at our tailgate.
Yeah.
But elsewhere,
At 6 a.m. we were over there.
Well, when you're over at the West Lot, I went over because I was waiting on food to be delivered to ours because we got it catered, and I went over and talked to a fraternity brother of ours over in the West Lot, and me and another person from our tailgate went over there because we were waiting on more people to get there. We were over there, and we left at it was after noon had hit. And I mean, it seemed like I could have counted only 10 tailgates in the West Lot. It was bad. So we give a pass when there is a hurricane and people from North Carolina can't come up here. We give a pass when there's a lightning delay and people don't come back into the stadium because of an hour and a half delay or whatever. I can't give a pass when I don't know what the hell it takes when you're undefeated at home. You've got the conference schedule here. You
You're
win
in the thick of it.
Yeah,
you're not out of it.
You win and you can win.
That's right.
And you're going up against a team that until they got beat the previous week, they had only lost to number 1 Texas. And you can just keep going on and on.
I can. It was senior day. It was a beautiful day.
It was great, gorgeous football weather. And I mean, you just keep going on and on. And then to top it off, I didn't see this until after the game because you know how it is when you're at the game, you don't get cell phone service and everything. So I wasn't really on Twitter. I thought it was great that I was able to send a tweet out at halftime. But then I go after the game and I see a couple of burner accounts, attacking you like they're trying to play fan police or something, in the opposite manner. Usually you hear people's like, oh, the Thundercast is being fan police because they're talking. And I don't know. It was damned awkward. It was.
I would just like to say about that whole thing. I slept like a baby last night. By the way, just so you know. I know you were worried.
Oh God,
I slept like a baby last night.
You've known me for 20. What's it been now? 27 years.
Yeah.
I don't. And man,
if you got haters, you're doing something right. That's all there is to it.
Well, here it is. Everybody can forgive me for this, and there's going to be one person listening that will actually jump up for joy because he's been wondering when I'm going to throw it in there. But I do not give a flying fuck what anybody thinks about me in person, much less somebody that has to hide behind a
faceless burner account.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? And when they're putting, the whole thing, the whole identity is like, let's just be as negative as we can and stuff like that. And like putting stuff out that like, this is going to happen. Then it don't happen. And you don't hear from them for 3 or 4 weeks. And then they come back with other stuff. It's like, oh, it's still bad over there, man. And that one person, by the way, I got to give him a shout out, is Todd Dillon. Todd, I said it finally. You've been wondering when I was going to drop one on here, and I don't like to do that. I think our sponsors will be okay. I think it'll be fine.
This is not a reflection on them, by the way. These are all personal opinions. They know that we say what we want and we try to keep it family friendly, but whatever.
But I mean, I've never in my life cared about what somebody thought about me in person when they would come and say it to my face, and I've known them for a long time. Yeah. Never has that bothered me. Why would I start when somebody is putting an anonymous account together on Twitter? Well, and if they think they're talking to me, they're not. You know what I mean? Like, how often I'm on there on our account.
Yeah.
I mean, I use it to DM from the account when we're trying to set some things up. And if I'm at an event like the softball home run derby, because you're not there live. But I mean, I'm not sitting at the 45-yard line in the chairbacks, going like this and not watching the game that's unfolding right in front of me with 0 cell phone service. So if you think you're talking to me, I tell you what, come over to 71 through 67 of the C lot, and I'm over there before the games. I'm over there after the games and everything. And right down here has my actual name. And it's got my actual name on the Twitter handle, and it's got my actual profile photo is actually me. I don't care, man. Say whatever you want to say. It does not bother me, and I know it don't bother you. So
no, it doesn't bother me at all. But in case you didn't know, we are bought and paid for by the athletic department.
Oh, yeah.
For everybody that doesn't know, we're bought and paid for. Our opinions are not our own. We are fed what to say, and we say what they want us to say. And believe me when I tell you, I have said plenty that they did not like.
And you know me, I don't give a shit about that either.
So it is what it is. So let's move on. Overall, what do you got for ULM?
I got an A, and here's why.
Okay.
We are still in the thick of it to win. And I'm not going to lie, a lot of that had to do with a great weather day and the tailgate. We were able to take the kids, and before we weren't because of what the weather was going to be like and things like that. And we circled this game when we saw the weather and everything's like, let's be able to take the kids. So Ashley and I took the kids, and we had an absolute banger of a tailgate over there with the muffaletta sandwiches and the jambalaya, and everybody just having a great time.
Good.
And so the tailgate, for me, that experience goes a long way. But you come out with a win, being 5-0 at home, and you're in the thick of the conference championship race.
Mm-hmm.
It's an A for me all day, every day. I don't really care that it was 28-23 and it should have been better. All I care was it was a win. It was a good game.
I'll win ugly 100 times out of 100 over losing pretty. But I was able to just watch the game in its entirety, and that's something that I've not been able to do in a very long time. So for me, it was an A as well. You get a win. The Herd put on a good show. Some guys made some plays. I was really happy for some guys who were able to have a big day, like Ethan Payne, those seniors, JJ intercepting that 2-point.
Yeah.
Mike Green, who walked, he's not a senior, but he walked. They were honoring him as a senior. We've seen guys do that in the past. We've seen Gilmore walk, and then he came back and played another year. So it's not automatic, but I don't know, man. I think it's going to be real hard to keep Mike Green out of that NFL draft conversation this year. And
I do too.
Let me say this. We're going to preview the game in a couple of weeks, but let me say it now because I'm going to say it again. You're going to have potentially one opportunity to see Mike Green, JJ, and these guys at home. Well, it's only one opportunity for JJ and Ethan and a bunch of these other guys, but potentially one opportunity left to see the great Mike Green in a Herd uniform at Joan C. Edwards Stadium, and it's coming up on 75 week. And win or lose against Southern Miss does not really matter. The Herd is undefeated at home, and they have a chance to go undefeated at home during 75 weeks. So that is a couple of great reasons to go out and see that game, aside from what all else it means, So that's something to take note of, man. Some of these guys are going to be playing their last game at the Joan in a couple of weeks. So even though senior day is early this year, you get one more opportunity to see them. You might want to take advantage of that. What do you got real quick for your offensive MVP?
Jordan Houston.
Good call. I think I like that pick as well. How about defensive MVP?
Mike Green. And Jaden Yates put a hell of a show on with the tackles and everything, but Mike Green was the game changer at the end of the game. He is now third in the nation in sacks, 10, and fourth in tackles for loss with 13.5. Big game.
I think it's pretty amazing. I one tackle, even though Jaden had 10, Mike had 9. And the impact plays that Mike Green accounted for just outweigh that one extra tackle. No offense to Jaden. He's played freaking phenomenally this year, but it's Mike Green all the way. Special teams MVP. Give it to me.
Alec Clark, man.
Hell yeah.
Now listen to this real quick. 60 was the long, and we talked about that. 47.3 average, 2 inside the 20. But the other one that wasn't inside the 20 was a 46-yarder that went to the 22. So, I mean, it's just a really good game. I mean, it's hard to get those inside the 20s when you're 50-some yards away and to be able to do it. So that inside the 20 is only when you have the opportunity to do so. Just a phenomenal day for him.
And I want to speak to that 60-yarder real quick because that's from the line of scrimmage. Right? Yeah. Not forget it was a horrible whatever that put it back on the 1. So that ball really went a damn country mile to land inside the 20.
And to do that, he had to sidestep the guy. It's almost like he gave a ball fake, a head fake or whatever, like I'm going to run this way. And the guy went flying right by like the Scooby-Doo. And, you go over there and he kicked it. He kicked it on a line drive. I feel like on purpose, not like just to get it off.
Trying to get the bounce.
Yeah. I feel like he did that because, if I take my time to try to do a higher kick, maybe it's going to get blocked for a touchdown. Yeah. So,
at that point, it was like, Jesus, just get the ball off my foot and let me see where it lands. But I think you're right. It was the line drive hoping to get that bounce, and he got the bounce and then got a second bounce. So it was pretty good. Anything else on this one for ULM? If not, let's go really quickly around the Herd.
We're going to go around the Herd, and we're going to start with that cross country. We talked about Kylie Maston winning the gold. The women won third place overall at the Sunbelt Conference Championship. Hannah Weiler finished 9th to also be somebody in the top 10. The men finished 6th overall in the 8K. You can find all of that and the rest of Around the Herd at Herd Zone if you want to read the article and see exactly where everybody finished up. Awesome. Go ahead.
I just said awesome.
Oh, volleyball. They beat Old Dominion 3-1 and then swept them 3-0 the next day. It's been a really good couple of weeks there for volleyball. I believe that's 4 wins in a row.
I think so.
App State we're down there, but it comes up on Friday and Saturday. So let's hopefully keep that momentum going and keep improving our place to where we're going to be for the seeding of the tournament. Tennis. Sophia Hurion picked up 3 singles victories, went 3-0 at the College of Charleston tournament. The teams overall did not do very well down there, the doubles and singles. College of Charleston was doing great, but Sophia Hurion on day one was the only person to get a victory singles, and then she ended up picking up 3 overall, went 3-0. Nell Van Hout and Emma Vanderhayden also scored singles victories at the event. And then Marshall got doubles victories from Aisling McGrain, Nell Van Hout, and then Johanna Strom and Nell Van Hout. So Nell Van Hout also had a really good showing at this tournament.
Wait, before you move on, I just want to take 1 second and do a quick roster thing with tennis, because for a couple of years now, you've heard us say names like Johanna Strom, Emma Vanderhayden, Aisling McGrain, Sophia Hurion, right? So these are all upperclassmen now. Hurion, McGrain, and Vanderhayden, all seniors this year.
Yeah.
Johanna Strom is a junior. When you mentioned Nell Van Hout several times, freshman. She's a freshman. There are 2 freshmen on this roster right now. One is Nell Van Hout, and the other is a local gal, Meredith Riley, who comes to the herd from South Point.
Over on swim and dive, they won the dual meet against Buffalo 226 to 140. They picked up wins, if I'm reading this correctly, picked up wins in 5 of 6 events on day 1 and 7 of 10 on day 2. Obviously, I'm not going to go down through the 12 different people that scored first, but a couple of times we had placing first, third, fourth, and fifth, and that sort of thing. It looked like we just absolutely dominated in this event, swimming more than diving, but across the board, great showing. And you can find, again, all of that stuff on herdzone.com. And the big thing to remember, if you are in town, they host James Madison Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Fitch. So I don't know if we're calling it the Fitch, but I think we are now.
We are. I tell you what.
Maybe the Freddie Fitch. Maybe we'll call it the Freddie Fitch.
The Freddie Fred. I like that. So I would encourage folks to go. I caught a little bit of the meet a couple of weeks ago when it was the green and white like inter-squad thing. And it was really freaking cool, man. I wish that I had been going to these like when I was a student or things like that. Man, it was really cool. Yeah. And I'd never been in there before. You were right. It's really tough to find. The easiest way I can tell you is like the old ticket office in the Cam Henderson Center. That's where you go in the double doors and you go up like 1 flight of steps and then you kind of see or maybe 2 flights of steps. You enter on the concourse of the Cam. And then I don't know where is that? It's a couple doors down, or you can go in the second floor of the Cam where the ticket office is at the Cam and just go maybe 20 yards, 10 yards.
3 doors to the right, I think.
And take a right.
So, yeah, that's the way last week I told everybody if they want to go in. Now the only way that you can enter the Cam, or for most people that can enter the Cam, is going up the ramp and going in that way.
Okay,
because of the stay safe with the herd deal. So you're going up the ramp to go into basketball for the majority of fans anyway. If you're a big green or you can get through the off the tarmac still, but you go through those double doors. They've got the new store immediately to the right. It's like 2 more doors or 1 more door down as you're going. It's on the right. You can't miss it. Just start checking doors. You go down through there. You're going to end up right in. You'll definitely see. It's the only one that has a big pool.
Yeah, it's the only one with a pool in it. But it was really cool to go see that, and I would encourage somebody or everybody to go check it out if you can. It's one of those things, and we've said this about women's basketball before and volleyball before. If you go once, you'd probably go again. But it was just a unique Marshall experience that I hadn't had before, and I thought it was really cool.
It is so much fun. They are actually doing more work in there too. I know this from trying to supply the lifts for the work that they were doing, but new leaderboard going up and things like that. So just always trying to get better. Women's basketball, they tip off their season Monday at 7 p.m. at Toledo, and then they will be at home versus Northern Kentucky on Sunday at 1 p.m. Men's basketball is hosting Davis and Elkins at home on Monday at 7 p.m., so it will be the same time that the women play. But you can always, if you're going to the men's game, you can always on ESPN Plus watch the women on demand later. They will then have Toledo at home on Saturday at 2 p.m. and then Southern Indiana at home on Monday at 7 p.m. So over the next 8 days, going to have 3 games to open this season, 3 home games to go watch. Women's soccer, they ended up losing to Louisiana 2-1 to end their season. They will not be in the tournament. I think they were up in this game 1-0 at the half and ended up giving 2 goals up in the second half. But Rafa Samo's first year, again, he's done a lot of recruiting that we've talked about on here. It's going to take it a little bit to kick in, but kind of disappointing season for them. I have to think they at least wanted to make that tournament.
Yeah, I would think so too. But I guess all that really means for Rafa is that he can hit the recruiting trail a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They can maybe get in on some prospects or maybe some portal players a little bit sooner. I don't know, man. It's hard to make a good positive out of this because it was not a good year.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all expected it to be a rough year, but I think we all expected a little bit more, just a little bit. Like you said, maybe even being the bottom seed in the tournament would have been good enough in this first year. So it just sucks to miss that, but this isn't the men. It's going to take a minute, and you're going to have to go through a few seasons of roster turnover and, transfers and all of it to try to piece together something to start being competitive. But, hey, this is not football. This is not in basketball. The pressure is not the same. But there will be pressure if you don't see results in a couple of years. There will be, just not right now. You got to give the man time to build a program.
Yeah, and I know that we're talking about soccer, so 1-0, 2-1 are common scores and everything, but it wasn't like we were getting, outscored 4-0 every game, that sort of thing. You had a lot of games where just last week or two, maybe it's been 2 weeks now, when Alexis Wolgemuth had that 9-save performance and ended up in a 0-0 draw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so you're looking at if we can get a little more scoring, if we can, a player here and there could make all the difference. So it's not like we didn't win a game this year. We only won 1 game this year or something like that. We were in a lot of games. So those are the kind of things that you can look at. It's like, okay, this can be turned around. This isn't a let's burn it down and restart. He's got a lot of recruits coming in. Give him a little time to get here and gel.
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to finish up with men's soccer. They had a 1-1 tie at Kentucky that put us into this situation, setting up this season finale at home versus WVU on Tuesday that we have already talked about quite a bit on here in the 5 things. So I don't really feel like we need to revisit it. If you're here and you're blessed to have tickets, you're going to be in for an amazing, amazing game.
Yeah, and we're going to need every single one of you that can be there to be there. We're going to need you in Kelly Green. We're going to need prepared to be loud all game long. We need to create the type of home environment that gives our guys every single advantage to take this one home and hoist another trophy. Man, this is the biggest of the big games. This is the biggest game on the Herd schedule to date, this athletic calendar, right? So far, of all sports, this is the biggest one of the current athletic calendar. There will be potentially bigger games, and they may even be by the men's soccer team here in a couple of weeks. But for right now, this is the biggest game to date on the men's athletic calendar. We have an opportunity to hoist a trophy at home, or win a championship at home. And you just got to turn out. People are going to turn out. They're going to have to turn people away. I don't doubt it one bit. The fire marshal will set the limit, and they'll be like, that's it. Ain't nobody else getting in. And you love to see it, but this is what you hope for. These are the games you want. These are the games you want, and we got one. So go, be loud, be proud, wear green, give them hell.
That's all we wrote for Around the Herd.
All right, that's all she wrote, taking home a big football victory and some other great news. An individual SBC champion this week. What a great week in Herd athletics. Russ, take us the hell out of here.
Yeah, whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Jack, or whether you see us at the Freddie Fitch, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. We'll see you in a couple of days for a Southern Miss football preview. It's the ThunderCast. Later.